Okay, this is a really, really fun one. Really fun.
One of my favorite LinkedIn people, maybe ever. I mean, and LinkedIn is a high bar for me because I don't like following a lot of people. So we had Michael Abata join us, who is an expert in retail.
Expert. Amazing human.
I mean, truly an expert, diving into some really detailed things, talking about some innovation things, and also talking about retail in the way that my favorite way of talking about retail, which is to expand it beyond, oh, is retail interesting to you? No, it's like retail as a experience framework and looking at kind of how brands today can be thinking about experience, which is, such an important thing as we get into kind of the world of AI. So
Right. And so many takeaways from just a brand level, from really understanding experience, kind of the visual end of things. And I love that Michael's perspective is he's always into and aware of like what's new, what's happening right now, but he has a pretty, extensive background in retail, and he's done a lot of things and knows a lot of things from way back when. And I love kind of that knowledge of his and really bringing that into relevance. And I just love chatting with him. I adore him and think it was a great and very inspired conversation.
Yeah. If you enjoy it, let us know, and let us know how you're feeling about our little retail,
yes,
moment that we're having where we're trying to dive in a little bit. It won't be for very long, but just a couple of weeks. But thought we'd have a little bit of a theme for a moment. So let us know what you think.
Lots to take away. And let us know anybody else we should be talking to. Enjoy.
Yes. Hey, everyone. It's Chris.
And Kirsten.
Welcome to Good Thinking Weekly, the podcast where we discuss the best of the best in brands, marketing, and culture.
Thousands of people, top execs from the likes of Complex, Klaviyo, Walmart, Wall Street Journal, and LVMH tune in every single week.
We run a creative consultancy in Good Co, so we know what it takes to build a good brand.
Subscribe on YouTube, your favorite podcast app, and Good Thinking on Substack for more.
All right, let's dive in.
Welcome to Good Thinking.
Thank you.
Hello.
So happy to be here.
We are so excited.
Happy.
Yeah, seriously, so excited. I was telling Kirsten today that, well, I've been telling her honestly since we started the podcast that I've wanted you on, but I was telling her, like, I was going through your notes and I'm like, this is the most prepared guest we've ever had. I'm so excited. He's like, you've drained yourself into the preparation of this in a way that we've never had a guest prepare. So I'm super excited to talk about everything retail, all the things that you write about on LinkedIn that I love so much. It's going to be such a fun podcast. I can't wait.
I agree.
Seriously.
I can't wait to hear your opinions and thoughts and get into it on all things retail.
Yes. I mean, I've been giddy with excitement all morning. Like, I feel like we're just going to shoot the shit about retail, which I know is a passion of yours and certainly mine and Chris's. So just really, really excited. So Michael, if you want to introduce yourself, a little background, and then we'll really get into it.
Yeah. I mean, as you alluded to, I am Michael Abata. Passion for retail. I've been in the retail space for 20 plus years, everything from Target to some startups like Camp and Made by Gather. Currently working on in real life retail with Chewy and Chewy Vet Care, which is really exciting. And then I do a ton of gig work kind of outside of that, as you mentioned, Chris and Kirsten. Kirsten, right? Or is it?
Kirsten.
Yeah,
Kirsten.
You got it right.
I always like to make sure I'm saying names correctly.
Same. Luckily, I think I nailed Michael. I think
You think
we're
good.
good.
Yeah. As long as you don't say Mikey, we're good. No, but retail's just been a passion for mine, and over the past couple of years, I started writing about it on LinkedIn, and I've found people enjoy hearing what I have to say. And also just connected with some really great people like yourself and others that are also looking at retail and what's happening in the space. And so it's been a fun place to be and talk about.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, I don't know if you know Kirsten's background because
I do. I know it.
Because she's like retail obsessed and got me retail obsessed. And basically we just go around stores exactly like you, I think.
Yeah.
And we're like, look at this tiny hang tag detail. That's great, isn't it? Or oh my God, why would they do that? And when I see your content, I'm like, it's like seeing a mirror.
Exactly.
This is my person.
Yeah. And it's fun to talk with other people about it because everyone sees something slightly different.
Yeah.
And so when you go on walks with other folks or you talk like this, like we're doing here, you get a different take and a different perspective. And I love that. Keeps my curiosity alive.
Yeah. I could do this all day. So everybody should follow Michael because it's really you post on all the things and it's very inspiring. And you're in Minneapolis, yeah?
Yep. That's right.
Yeah. So it's like
Right
you're
here in
in
the
the
North Midwest.
yeah, and there's so much happening there, and there's so many like, great stores that are out there and,
Yeah.
landmarks.
Yeah.
So, okay. Where do we want to get started?
Yeah, where do
'Cause
we want to get
so
started?
much to chat about.
Yeah. I mean, I want to start briefly with like, why do you like retail? Because I think that's probably,
Yeah.
so we're doing kind of, you don't know this, but this is part of kind of a little retail series that we're beginning to roll out. So
Mhm.
you're
I
our
like it.
first
I like
retail
it.
guest.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's something that we talk about all the time. And our interests, Kirsten worked in retail. I ended up like meeting her through experiential. And so
Okay.
that's kind of our background and how we came together. So we have these
Nice.
two kind of, she has a maybe more traditional retail background and I have a non-traditional retail background. And I think that makes it quite fun when we have conversations. And I'm curious about why you like retail because not everybody cares as much as we do.
And it's funny, I didn't know I liked retail. My very first job was actually at Old Navy back in the heyday.
Love
Do you
it.
remember when they had the Americana flag T-shirts and the tech
So
vests?
good. Take me back. It was so good. So I was working at the Gap in those days. So yes.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and I was 16 and I was like, what is this? I love this energy and the environment. Through college, I worked at Express Men, I worked at Best Buy, and I just loved the retail space. And then I realized like, oh, this is something you can do as a career and got involved with it. And I think what excites me most about it is it's just always evolving and always changing. But it's also kind of the same thing. It's just like a new iteration of it. And so that's been really fun. And then the other thing, and when I was at Target, we would go out and, go to New York and LA and London and Hong Kong and see all of this amazing retail all over the world. And what I've sort of discovered now, so I live in Minnesota. My husband's going to medical school in Omaha, Nebraska at Creighton University. Shout out to them. And, I'm actually right now I'm in Omaha, and it's so interesting, like in the middle of the US, like what's happening in retail. And there's actually some really cool stuff happening. We always hear about like the extremes or the really sexy stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
for me, I also like just seeing some of the mundane and like everyday things because they can be really fascinating and inspiring as well.
I love that. Actually, I just was talking to somebody and they were like, tell me about the Midwest. So I feel like we need to like talk about that. That's going to be a whole other podcast.
Let's talk about it.
Totally. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's also so much of reality, right? What we see
Yeah.
on either coast or when we travel is like the most glammed version of something. But I
Correct.
think, and that's why I love what you share on LinkedIn so much, because it's not like it's like small things. It's like big things that are happening. But oftentimes I think the stores in the Midwest are a balance of kind of the brand moment, but also making things that are really shoppable that people can actually go in and experience and buy versus kind of just a, eye candy.
Right. It's funny because Sunday, I had a little bit of time. My husband was studying. So I was like, I'm going to go walk some retail. He's like, okay, I'll see you in a little bit. And I actually posted about it. I popped into a Spirit Halloween store. And I was actually blown away. I mean, I had seen some of the like really expansive versions of it where they've got like all these displays and like ghosts popping out at you and everything else. And this was just a costume shop, but it was like incredibly busy. I mean, the week before Halloween, but just how well merchandised it was and themed and all I was like, all this is happening here in the middle of Omaha, like Nebraska. Like that's crazy and also awesome and inspiring. So it's fun to see those things happening here too.
Mm-hmm. No, totally. I think I've been in Spirit, I think every day this week
Really?
and watching it from
Nice.
like a 14-year-old boy's
Yeah.
perspective and an 11-year-old girl's perspective. And they shop totally differently. And like the salespeople were great with her and she really wanted to know. And he's like, I just want to know, do they have this? Do they have this? Okay, this is the one I'm doing. But I think that's such a great example of like experience. Like they're really bringing that, like it's merchandise, but they're really bringing kind of that experience to life. A few months out of the year, and they're killing it.
It was so interesting too. Is the first time you remember back in the day, or those Black Friday days, way back when it actually would start. I don't know, like at 8 a.m., like a normal time or whatever, and like everyone was there, and it was just this sense of shopping and having fun, and like you don't experience that much anymore. But when I was at Spirit Halloween, like you had that feeling. It was so fascinating. Like people were there, everyone's just shopping and looking at things and nobody's looking at the price, which is also fascinating. And you're like, what is going on?
Yeah, that's a great call. Really bringing back that experience versus kind of this whole like gamified thing that we've now created with like Black Friday starts here, and then it's online, and then it's da-da-da-da, and then
Use
we're
your
going to do
reward
the
points.
video. Right.
Get your cash.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Versus just people fucking waiting because they actually wanted to get into the store and experience that.
Or, I mean, easily that has been happening at all the Glossier pop-ups too, right? Where people are waiting in line, and then it's really about the experience of just shopping the store and feeling the product and testing it. So yeah.
I want to talk about that. And so you gave me, I was like, who's doing it right? Tell me who are we to be looking at right now, right? And you had a really interesting list. Like, it was not the list that I was thinking. So I think I'd love to start there because I think it's a great place to kind of dive in and talk about some of the principles that you're talking about. Because I think what I would love to make sure is that anyone who's not listening, who's not retail obsessed like the two of us or the three of us, is like getting out of it, like, what can they take away from these brand experiences? Because I actually think your list is not all of them are traditional retail. And I think so many brands are coming kind of into this space in a way like they're realizing like, oh, performance marketing's not working. Let's try experiential, or they're tiptoeing into realizing that they need to have a human experience and they're kind of getting in. So I think this is an opportunity to kind of talk about retail, but talk about it in a way that expands the world of retail from what we like maybe used to define it as.
Yeah, let's do it. I know my lists are always a little different.
Love your list,
but it's so good.
That's the point.
Yeah, no, it's good.
I think that really is, Michael. And I think that's part of your secret sauce is so much, and so much of LinkedIn, right? Is so much of the same thing. We're all kind of telling the same stories, and you come at it from a different perspective, and it's not off, but it's like a little bit more of the real world experiences and really great takeaways. Yeah. And I think that's rad and inspiring every single time. Okay, so let's get into it.
Yeah.
All right.
Who do you want to start with first?
Let's start at the top of your list.
We have to go in order.
And if you haven't listened to every single episode of my podcast, it's Chris doesn't know how to say the name or can't remember the name. That's the name. That's the subtitle name of this podcast.
Yes,
we get through it though.
Is it Rowan?
I think it's Rowan. That's what I think
so. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We
let's
gotta
talk about Rowan.
If it's anything more complex, I need a accent or something.
Okay.
Rowan.
Okay. Let's talk about Rowan.
Yeah. So they're an ear piercing retailer service.
Yeah.
And I actually discovered them at the Mall of America, their first location. And I was like, what is this? And as I started to dig in, I was like, holy crap, they've gone from one store in 2017 to, I think they're about at 90 now. And they just completely reinvented that whole experience. So if you think about, you used to go, I mean, you either went to Claire's and like some teenage girl would pierce your ears on a chair in the front, right? Or you were like me, and we would go to like these hardcore tattoo shops. When I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin area, and so like in high school, we would get bored and we'd go get things pierced, and that's what you did. And it was, I'm sure my friends love it.
I'm here for that. I'm here for that. Yeah.
And now all of a sudden they've sort of just like reinvented this whole experience. They work with nurses and nurse practitioners. It's a very like methodical, like, here are all the different places we can pierce your ear, and then we're going to give you all the aftercare, and you're going to pick which like earring you want, and here's how you do everything. And they've made the experience an experience. And it was funny, I was chatting with my sister-in-law, and she's like, oh yeah, we just took your niece there, like everybody's talking about it. They just reinvented that whole experience and created a really cool, if you look at their store locations and like the look and feel of them, really vibey and got a good experience, and the staff is awesome there. And so to me, I was just like, this is a really good example of taking something that's mundane and boring and reinventing it, because it's a need.
Yeah,
for sure.
I like that.
For sure, Claire's, like, I think the first 3, maybe 4 were done by Claire's. And to your point, it's not just that it was done by Claire's, but it was like somebody who for sure was not a skilled, definitely not a nurse, like maybe 13,
they watched
15.
Somebody else do it, or maybe a quick 10-minute trading video in the back.
100%. And then having a daughter who has 2 double piercings, like this is such an opportunity and need. And I think anything where you can take and completely reinvent it, and not just reinvent it for like fucking reinventing sake, but actually create an experience off of this.
That's right.
Like Rowan Studs, I think, is also doing quite a great job.
Yeah.
And then you see Claire's on the exact opposite end, and it's like, guys, what's happening?
Well, now they're bankrupt again, so RIP.
I mean, we've probably given Claire's more. We've given Claire's more airtime on this podcast than any other brand.
They were doing it.
We've got a lot of ideas.
They were doing so well, and then I was like, darn it.
No,
you had it. You had it, but
Yeah, what I like about Rowan is I think that they've differentiated from Studs in a nice
Yeah,
way. Like
that's right.
Studs feels very one vibe, and Rowan feels maybe a little bit more elevated, a little bit more sophisticated. Do we agree?
Yeah, I would say
don't-
so. And no, honestly, their team is just picking really great locations.
Mm,
They're fine. They're figuring out where the families are, and I
Mm.
think it also appeals to a Hispanic audience because there's a lot of piercing that happens at a really early age in the
mm.
Hispanic community, and so they're picking the right locations, and yeah, it's awesome.
Location
Great.
selection, I really don't think can be underrated. Like in
Nope,
terms of
not at
Yeah.
all.
your
I agree
retail
100%.
strategy.
Yep.
It
Yep.
really says a lot about you too. Like it's like who you show up next to, what neighborhoods you
Mhm.
choose. It kind of tells you before you've even walked in the door, you have a sense of what kind of brand it's going to be, right?
Because it's
100%.
about who you're surrounded by, and yep.
Yeah, I have a love and appreciation of real estate strategy on the retail side that I
Yep.
certainly didn't like have the awareness of when I was internal in-house, but it's like such an appreciation both of like where the actual location is, the storefront, all the things.
Yeah,
But I know we got to keep
agree.
going.
Yeah, let's talk about Altered State because I've written about them too, and
What do you
they're
have?
Well, I've written
Okay.
about them like it briefly, but
Okay.
I don't feel
Yeah.
like I've given them the love that like
Same.
maybe
Same.
they deserve because people. Casey Lewis writes about Altered State quite a bit.
She does.
Yeah. So
I have to preface this. The CMO of Altered State is a badass who I worked with at American Eagle, Dana Seguin, and she is rad. And I think so much of what's happening here is, you know, she was at Aerie at American Eagle, like is kind of through this. So I'm excited. I was so excited to see this on the list and excited to hear all of the amazing things that her and her team are doing.
I mean, I've been watching this concept grow. They opened in Minneapolis. There's a very high, not a very, like a higher end area called 50th in France. And they have a prime location right on the corner. And you're like, what is the, and you see people going into it all the time. And it was fascinating because it's not necessarily designed for me, but as I talk to my nieces and I talk to some of my colleagues, and I've been shocked at how many younger teens and early 20s and 30s are shopping sort of at the original Alter State. But then when you start to dig into the organization and the company and see all these additional sort of concepts, when I was walking the Mall of America and we went into their new, what's the store called? AS Revival, I believe. Yeah. I thought it was right next to an Aerie store, and I thought it was just an extension of Aerie. And we walked in and we're like, hey, like, what is this? Who owns you? Very direct with the questions.
I love it.
And they're like,
what?
oh yeah, this is our new Altered State workout gear like concept.
Mm.
We're trying things out right now. And I was like, what? Like this, I was blown away, and I had no idea. And as I dug in to see that they were in home goods and that they have the vowed wedding concept. They've
Very
also
smart.
got a baby and toddler and kids concept. And you're like, what? Like this is pretty incredible. It has the likes of kind of like what Gap was maybe trying to do for a little bit when they were trying to get into furniture and home, but they're kind of their own thing.
Yeah. It sounds a little bit like a little bit of a free people movement crossed with like an anthropology strategy.
Yeah. Yep.
It's interesting.
It's fascinating, but I think one of the things that I like most of what I've seen of this brand is it never has felt like a brand, whereas I think the brands you just referenced and we often reference are always like, well, they're a version of that, or you could see their influence over here. Altered State feels like they've kind of come in and said, this is our brand, this is who our girl is, who our woman is, who we're going after, and then let's create, of course, the categories, but in their own way versus kind of in a more copycat or influenced way.
Yeah, there's like good things they pulled from every retailer. Like there's a little bit of anthro and urban where like their store designs are all a little different and unique. I feel like the curation is really nice and how they do their visual merchandising on tables and walls, but it also feels more curated and not templated like a Gap or an Old Navy. So yeah, and then as I was researching for this podcast, apparently they bought this like high end, like mid-century California modern furniture store called Lawson Femming. I don't know them. They're out of the LA area. So Kirsten, maybe you. Yeah, something's going on. Like I think they're one to watch.
Yeah.
Up to good stuff. Great.
They are definitely one to watch. And let's talk Rivian, because I feel like I will say that I was giving Rivian the nail in the coffin right before the whole like Tesla debacle. And then I feel like they've really managed to kind of like make this their moment and have managed to get people like Ava Chen has a Rivian, and they're really like I saw a bunch of them in New York. I mean, one looked like it was a police car, so that was like a little disconcerting because the way that the lights work, it's like just not
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
But I think what they're doing with retail, or like even just spaces, I wouldn't even say just
Yeah.
their retail, like
Yeah.
their amenities, which are the outposts that you mentioned. I think it's a really interesting brand, and maybe they're going to make a comeback, or maybe they have made a comeback, which is an interesting pivot because it didn't look like
Yeah.
it was going that way.
I mean, my first experience with them was at their Venice Beach location way back. I don't know. That was even maybe pre-COVID or right after COVID.
They've been there for a bit, across from
Yeah,
Erewhon.
and it was sort of like it's at this community space, and I think they're running some events in there, but it had a really nice vibe to it. It fit the Venice. And then the other day, well, I guess a month ago, I was walking at Aventura Mall in Miami and saw their a little version of the store that kind of took that Venice version and scaled it down, but talking to a little bit more affluent audience, but it still had the same experience. Like they had both of the I guess trucks or SUVs like in there, and you could experience them. They could do it. They had them outside, so if you want to do a test drive, you could. But they really showcase like all the choices that you can pick from, and the fact that it only costs $100 to like reserve one is very accessible. No commitment. And if your time comes and you don't want it, they're like, we'll refund your $100. So like that's really interesting. And then I had posted about, Chris, you had talked about those outposts that they're doing outside of Joshua Tree, and I think it's Yosemite, where they've just created these really elegant charging stations right outside of national parks for you to hang out, get your Rivian charged up, but then also like get directions and learn about hiking areas, get some free food while you're waiting. Like, it's awesome because they're trying to associate themselves with adventure and being out in the national parks. And so, yeah.
So smart, so smart.
Hmm.
I would for sure trade in for Rivian if anyone's listening. So yes,
Same.
I'm here for it.
I mean, their new little one. I think I can't think R3
I think
maybe.
they're rad. I really like them aesthetically. Like I'm in
for sure.
And I think
the
what
fact
they're
that
doing
we're
in
seeing
contrast,
a lot of them here in the Midwest too is interesting.
for sure. For sure. And I think that there's
is.
such a contrast to Tesla with the $100. Like that's not how to buy a Tesla. Like believe me, it's more than $100.
Yeah.
And it feels, just a different. But I think one of the most interesting things from a brand standpoint, exactly as you both explained, they have from the get-go understood and rooted their brand in experience, like throughout everything. The last time I saw them was they were at South by.
Right.
And this was like the busiest thing, right? Was like a big fucking pile of dirt, and people were waiting in line across around the block to drive up and drive down on this pile of dirt. And you're kind of like, who's going to wait in line for that? But then you're also like, sorry, how long is the line? Can I do that? Like, it's just, and everything that they do and everything you just described, it's all about the experience, and the outposts are just taking it to that further level. And they've never kind of left that. I think the campaigns I'm a little questionable on, like they do kind of, I'm not sure owning fun is ownable or that interesting or unique, but I think the way that they've owned experiences and really led with that from a brand standpoint is fascinating and on point.
And honestly, their partnership too where Amazon's either like invested in them, or now the fact that you see Amazon Rivian delivery trucks like all over, free advertising for them too is interesting strategy.
Yeah. And they did a good job of like making the car differentiated enough that like you know that it's a Rivian, right?
Yeah.
I'm in.
All right, let's talk about Eataly, because I actually think Eataly, it's been around for a while, right? I mean, but when it came out, we lived or worked right next door.
We worked there, just to be clear. We spent a lot of time there, but we
which
didn't
one?
live there.
The one on Flatiron?
Yeah, the one in Flatiron. And
I
at the time,
I used to sit at that one.
Yeah.
And just eat pasta and talk to the local. It's amazing.
I would literally go and make
life.
friends for drinks. Instead of leaving, we would just go to the different bars inside of
the best.
Eataly. Like, it was just like, that was how we made like the night a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
And I think it was such an interesting innovation at the time. I'm interested to hear if they've been doing anything new. I haven't been to an Eataly in a while. But at the time, it was like a revelation, right? To have restaurant meeting, shopping meeting, like not just regular, there was also regular shopping, but there was kind of specialty shopping. There, it was a lot of different things kind of happening in one space, but it felt very seamless and very new at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And from what I understand, I don't know all the details, but I heard a gentleman speak a couple months ago who's working there, and they're really trying to bring that experience to smaller locations. And so they've just opened up a place in King of Prussia, and then also at this Aventura Mall again in Miami. And I had the experience of walking the one in Miami with a colleague who had never been to it. And she's like, "What is this? Why are you taking me here?" And I'm like, "No, just come in." And it's a much, so I think normally they're around 60,000 square feet. These are about 17 to 20,000 square feet. So they've really figured out how to scale them down and fit in a smaller location. But honestly, it had the same exact vibe and feeling of just fresh food, having that experience dining at the counter or having a sit down restaurant, still having that grocery experience, a little bit scaled back there. Probably people aren't going to the Aventura Mall. They pick up all of their groceries, kind of like versus the one you feel like in Flatiron, like people actually shop there for their meals on a regular basis. So I think there's something special still happening there. And it looks like they're trying to find a way to bring that brand to more folks. So that's what gets me really excited about it.
I love that. I think like we spent a lot of time in New York at the Eataly. And then Chris and we spent some time at Century City if we hit that mall. Like that's where we'll end up at the bar there.
Yeah,
and the food's always like quite delicious.
Yeah.
But
And
like
the
never
rooftop?
the store. Yeah, the rooftop, it's lovely.
Yeah.
But I would love to see, like it almost feels like the opposite strategy of Erewhon. Like I'd love to see a smaller version of that in Venice, like on Abbot Kinney or something like that, with less of the footprint, maybe grab a bottle of wine, but more about the food.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
There's probably an opportunity for them just to focus on like the food service piece of it. Although and their grab and go is always just awesome too. I know I've gone to I've been really hungry in Vegas at conferences, and like I'll just run over to is it Park MGM, I think? Yeah. Because you're going to get a good, like something delicious.
I'd be here for that. Yeah. Airports, maybe?
Yeah. Airports.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love, me, I love a good airport retail. Maybe you don't know that about me.
Well,
I do know that.
And we're going to talk about Hudson News after this. But
one more.
I do want to talk about Dick's House of Sports.
Yeah, and just Dick's in
Public
general.
Lands.
Yeah.
Tell me.
I mean, have you been to a House of Sport? Yeah.
No, I haven't been to a House of Sport, but I've been
You haven't.
I go to Dick's a lot recently. I do.
Yeah.
Which I think is impressive because like
funny because
5 years ago that category was like
because of your kids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there aren't a lot of places to go for sporting gear. I read like Sports Authority's gone. I don't even remember what some of the other places
Big
used
Five,
to be.
but like that's not a great experience.
Yeah. And so that there's that component of it, but these House of Sports are just incredibly well merchandised and very brand forward, and they're constantly switching out displays to be very culturally relevant in the front. I think one of my friends just walked the one here in the Twin Cities over in Ridgedale Mall, and it had like a FIFA World Cup display out. Already getting ready for that, which is really exciting. And I think it's that with a combination of the experiences. So like you can go in there and practice your golf. They have a track that you can run around, and you can practice with their bat, like the bats before you buy it. They have a batting cage in there. And so there's just a combination of like, you see so many families going in, and like it's like old school when we used to go to like a Sears or something, but you see families walk in and like the kids will run different directions to go do things while the parents shop. Again, you don't see that happening that often. So I was just really impressed with that. And then on top of it, I was able to visit their new sort of REI competitor, Public Lands, which is also an incredible feat in visual merchandising. It's just, you go in and are so inspired, and you're like, I'm going to learn how to like hike better. I'm going to do mountain biking, just because the way they've pulled together the assortment. Because REI, quite frankly, I think has fallen a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got some learnings happening over there. So it's fun to see Dick sort of pick that up and pick that category up.
I think that's a great call as far as the visual merchandising and the assortment. Because again, as we were talking about, I don't know, 5 years ago when like the category was just like nothing was happening. Like
it was just like
had to go somewhere.
Rows of gondolas.
Yeah, exactly. You would go somewhere, but like it was never a great experience. And I think oftentimes a brand, especially a heritage brand, would lean into like, okay, well, we don't have to make it a great experience. So we're just going to do the bare
Right.
That's right.
minimum
That's
and
right.
do the thing. And I think they've leaned in the other way. Like we worked with Nike for many years, and the Nike assortment there and how it feels, and wholesale, like having that line, like that's hard to do. It's
Yeah.
hard to take a brand and make it look really distinct and well done. And I think they really do that. So it's a nice experience. Like I really don't mind going there when we have to get the cheerleading shoes or the baseball bat or whatever the fuck we have to get.
And I'll say it, like House of Sport in particular, their merchandise team is just on par with what's trending and what some of the new brands are, for either from a D2C perspective or just something that's sort of like coming up, and like they're getting it in the store early and they're testing it, and they do such, as a brand going into Dick's, I would have so much faith because they're putting like every visual merch asset they have at your brand and really presenting it in just an awesome way. And so it's fun to see that come to life too. Like it's just good retail.
Totally. And I think that's so different, as I'm sure you know, like the past 5 years, 10 years, like visual merchandising people are out. Like they're not on the payroll anymore. People are like, fuck, we don't need that.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Of course they do. But I think for them to lean into that in a time when they didn't necessarily have to and now have it pay off is amazing. So props to VM.
Yeah, I would just say, I think like one of the things listening to this is that I think for a long time people were like, oh, retail doesn't really matter. But the truth is, like, I'm watching this one, like, buy her son, like, baseball, this, that, and she could go buy it on Amazon, right? But that experience isn't great because it's not when you're buying, especially sports equipment, but with anything in general, I think so many people are realizing, like, hey, like, that return experience sucks. Like, I want to see if it fits. I don't want to have to do this 10 times. Like, let's just get it right. Like, let's get something that I feel really good about that feels great quality, which nowadays, like, so much of what I hear most of the time is like people like, I don't want to go shopping because everything is just terrible quality. And so retail, I think, is really finding its way back because it's like a trust thing, right? Like it's like the place where you get to go and trust a brand. And I think Dick's has managed to position themselves, which I think what you guys were both saying about it being like a wholesaler, but there's trust there, which I think for a long time wholesalers were just like, here, like, like whatever, like put it on the brands to do the hard work of the trust. But actually Dick's is kind of doing the hard work for the brands, is saying, hey, like, here's the really good things. And then you go to Dick's to buy those things because you know that Dick's is going to have the best of the things.
Yeah. I think you make a really good point too. I think you can tell there's collaboration between the wholesalers and the retailer versus so many retailers, especially at the mass right now. They just make the wholesaler do everything. They're like, you want a great display, you make it, you have to come and install it. And you have to like
100%.
visually merch it every couple of weeks because we don't have time for that. And it definitely feels like it's a different vibe at Dick's and their stores, and there's a more collaboration happening, and you feel that as you're walking it and buying things.
Yeah,
so true.
I also think the assortment is interesting because Dick's obviously has their own in-house brands, and I can get on all day about Target and like their focus on in-house brands, but like one of the things I think that works about Dick's is that they have their in-house brands. They're sort of elevate their own in-house brands by having a better experience of all the things, right? So like when you finally come to, decide that you're going to buy the cheaper club because you find out that the golf club is like $600 and you're like, yeah, no. You buy the cheaper club, but you still feel good about it, right? I think what happened for me at Target is that when you buy the house brands at Target now, they don't feel like a good bargain anymore because there's nothing in comparison because there's no other brands in there. So you're like, like this just like bargain basement things. And you're like, I want bargain basement, even though Target was never bargain basement, right? So I was interesting to see that you didn't have Walmart on this list, but I'm sure we'll talk about that.
I thought about it. And I love what Walmart's up to and where they're going. I always get disappointed with people who I'm like, why aren't you walking Walmart? Why aren't you shopping Walmart? And people still have this like old view and archaic view of how they used to be. And they've just evolved so much.
They have. I still find their online experience to be like, just it's not for me.
Changing that perception is going to take a minute. All right.
Yeah.
But we got to keep moving. There's a lot to cover.
Yeah.
Chris,
And we're not going to be able to cover everything, but I'm going to include so much more in the newsletter. So if you're listening to this and you are like wondering where all the really extra goodies are living, there on the Substack. So go and read that.
It's a good Substack, folks. Subscribe.
Thanks. Yes, please subscribe. So I want to talk, you put something in here. So I'm obviously, we'll talk about AI at the end, I think, but I do want to talk about kind of the sort of crossover digital AI retail, all of those things, like kind of innovation in that space. And you had some really interesting examples of brands that are kind of doing something that's new. We can talk about also the dangers of maybe adding digital, because Kirsten and I talk about this all the time. Like, people even just adding screens goes poorly in retail, like often.
Every time.
Like,
Every time.
Yeah,
like,
Michael, like
retail 101, don't add
Because
any
nobody
screens.
plans to manage and maintain them after
Right.
they've been installed.
Right. It's
Every
like
single
everybody's
time.
so excited about the new technology. Yes, let's do it. And then it's like crickets and a huge fucking sign that says, like, just doesn't even say it's not working. It's just terrible.
Yeah.
Don't
have a
do
content
that.
strategy. Don't have a content strategy. Don't
Correct.
like maintain the screens. Half of them are broken. They're always
Yeah.
off or unplugged.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
disaster.
Right.
So,
But what is working? You had some
right.
great
So, like,
examples.
yeah, you have some interesting examples that felt like, to me, actually, like, you know, assuming that they work, they didn't feel like they had to be maintained, like in a content strategy kind of way. And so I
Sure.
was interested kind of
Wait,
seeing.
what were my examples?
You had Old Navy in here.
Oh,
And the
yeah, that's right.
AI-powered
Yeah,
fitting
talk about it.
room. And then we also have Amazon's
Oh, yeah,
Walkout
Amazon.
tech.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't experienced the Old Navy tech, but I guess they've added in some of their fitting rooms sort of smart racks that as you hang, everything's RFID'd. So as you hang stuff down, the clothing starts to pop up and populate on the screen. And then you can request different sizes just by a click of a button instead of having to like hail down, you know, somebody in the fitting room to go grab you something. Although it's funny, but way back when I was 16, I had to work the fitting rooms at Old Navy. Like that was a very big service in the fitting rooms. I don't know how much of that I haven't chopped.
I mean, we could talk about this all day long because Michael, you're old school. You know that what is it like 80%? There's some stat like 80. If you bring something in a fitting room, you're 80% likely.
100%.
The chance of you buying it is 80% likely.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the opportunity. And so, you know, when I was at American Eagle, we spent so much money innovating and the lighting and doing all the things into the fitting room. And now it kind of feels like forgotten technology. Like nobody's thinking about the fitting room and it's a terrible experience in many, many places. But that's really where to invest. So I think this idea, I haven't seen it, but the AI
I haven't seen
room,
it either.
like,
well, there was a store in New York that was doing something similar way pre-COVID. I can't think of what. It's on the tip of my tongue, but very high end.
Let it come to you.
What was that? Let it come to me?
Well, Prada for like ages ago.
I think Burberry was.
Yeah.
They've been
but
great.
Yeah. So we'll see. You know, the other piece that I just am really excited about and I love is this whole, whether it's walkout technology or just like making purchases automated, I think is fascinating, especially in the airport stadium space.
God. Make it happen. Make it happen for me. Walkout technology in the airport. I can't tell you how many times I've like nearly had an aneurysm trying to get a string cheese and then being like trying to scan it on the self-serve scanners now that they only have self-serve scanners. And I'm like, guys, like we can innovate our way like anywhere we want. Like I'm going to tell you that self-checkout is not it.
No, because now you have a person that doesn't really care trying to explain to you how to do self-checkout because it doesn't.
And I don't want to do it. I don't want to check myself out. Like I don't want to do it. I don't want to do the thing and the thing and the thing and the thing and the like. Nope. But walking out, which they have in LAX, you know,
they do.
Like grab chips and whatever. Like I'm into that.
Yeah. No, it's nice. And so there's like at Minneapolis St. Paul Airport, I wrote about it on LinkedIn. There's like a machine that you just set your stuff down and it through AI, it recognizes what everything is and just charges you. So there's no scanning or anything else. So there's definitely technology that's being built, but I'm just obsessed with the idea of like, how do you get things faster in those types of situations where you don't need to browse, you just know what you need and you want to get it. And a lot of times it is we all travel a lot. So we know that it's at the airport a ton. And it's also at stadiums when you're at games or concerts, like you just want your drink or your pretzel and you want to get back to why you're there. And so I think
that's
I think that also speaks exactly to, so I asked you in my interview, like before this, I was like, what are the common missteps, right? And you had such a smart answer that I think actually speaks to this exact thing, which is really about consumer journey, right? Like, so tell us what you think the misstep is and then we can chat about it. But to me, just the insight of when is the right time to implement this feels like it lives inside of your answer right there.
Of the, like, just overall missteps?
Yeah. So you wrote, okay, just to remind you what you wrote, because it might have been a while, is that you wrote that one of the things that people don't do is that they don't experience the full customer
Oh,
journey
sure. Yep.
of
Yep.
their own
That's right.
brands and of other brands. And I
Yep.
think one
That's
of
right.
the things that when you do that, which Kirsten and I don't know why we have such odd interests, really. Like, we could talk about that another day.
That's
but
another
like
podcast.
this is what we do for fun. Like, we literally
It's
go
true.
out on a Saturday when we're together, and we could be doing anything. Like, we could be at the spa. We could be, like, I don't know, on her porch drinking wine. And what do we find ourselves doing? We're running through the consumer journey of like various different retail spots. Like,
Yeah.
this is what we're doing for
Yeah.
fun.
Me too. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it.
Yeah.
It's a weird land to live in. But when you do that, I think that you really do see like, hey, this is where the space for innovation is, and you don't need it in this spot. Like, it's like you
that's
don't
right.
need to add a screen here. You don't need to add some friction here. But if it's like a moment where you're like, hey, speed is of the necessity, like, great time to try out some innovation things and like try out things that make it faster. So tell me about kind of your approach to kind of that and why you think what makes it obvious to you, I guess, that other people aren't doing it, because there's lots of things for us that make it obvious. So I'm curious to hear from you.
I'm continuously shocked with people who work in retail, who love retail, who aren't out experiencing it like the three of us are on a regular basis, just going and shopping and buying things and really experiencing that full journey from trying to find an item, like picking something in your mind and try to find it and see what the experience is like. Have a conversation with somebody on staff and get a feel for what that looks like. Try to order it online. And you just going through those steps, you start to just see interesting opportunities and missteps that either your brand that you work for is having or other retailers are experiencing. And it's just very eye-opening. And so I always encourage people to just get out there and like, don't just like walk around and like kind of look, like actually experience it. Pretend like you are, even if you're not going to actually buy something at the end of the day, at least go through the motions of picking something out, trying it on, whatnot, researching it, and really seeing all the possible points of interaction that your brand has with the customer.
Yeah, you had Abercrombie on here as an example of you recently doing this, and we also went to Abercrombie just this like week and a half ago.
Okay, what did we think? What did we think?
Oh boy, it was.
It went like, it was like, I was like, so
It was for a
excited
minute
for
they
it.
had it, and now it just feels like, guys, what are we doing? What are we doing?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Whereas
for our listeners on the podcast, Abercrombie, I recently walked the store and it was just piles of clothing on tables and shoved in the walls, and it felt like a discount apparel, like an Aeropostale, like I don't know what it felt like. It was not great.
And it's a fine line. It's a fine line. I think one of the most interesting things that I see happening is Brandy Melville is taking Abercrombie's playbook. And so there's still piles of clothing. Like, they're just like taking it out of the box, putting it right there. Like, I'm not sure how much they're investing in VM, but it works for them. And they're really leaning into that. And that's actually working. So it's not just a straight out like, oh, don't have such big piles. It's really a thoughtful, like, what is your brand? Who's your customer? And how are you merchandising for that experience?
Yeah.
Even they struck an exclusive deal with the NFL. And
who's that going after?
I don't know. And even like in Minnesota, they had Vikings stuff and then Kansas City Chiefs stuff. And I was like, the Packers like are literally next door to us. Like, so again, you could tell it's like, and that happens in merchandising and sporting. Like, it's just, you didn't have the right people planning and allocating. So even I think I was at Williams-Sonoma in Minneapolis a couple weeks ago, and they had a bunch of licensed NFL items, and it was all like Buffalo Bills. And I was like, no one's going to buy this in Minnesota. Like, why? You might as well just throw this away. But anyway.
But I think it really goes back to what you were saying about, go in stores. I think, we know the brands, and I don't know how many of them do this anymore, but actually I was just talking to somebody at Spirit, and they were saying that they do this. They have their employees work, I think, at least a day in the store. Because to your point, you learn so much. Like, I think when you're in-house, you're like, oh, fuck, I don't want to go and do that. But you go, and it's so eye-opening. And that's what people should be doing across the way of really seeing the experience from the consumer lens, because it changes everything.
Yeah. I mean, I think even just like the people designing like, you can tell that like anyone who worked in like merchandise, like actual design, had never been in one of those stores, because it was like, it felt I'm all for having like a varied customer, and I don't believe in having a girl anymore and having kind of more of a mindset or like a kind of a shopping by behavior. But like it can't feel like a schizophrenic exercise like when that happens. Like it shouldn't feel like it's like, oh, like we're NFL, and then it's like over here we have some prairie dresses, and then you're like, wait, what?
That's
Like
exactly what
I don't understand. Like I don't know where I am right now. Like there's also coats. Like oh, okay.
Yeah. It's
Like,
like they
what
had
is
an
the-
insight and just like went after that without really thinking about the whole
But
brand
they're just like
experience that they were
placing it in the store
recreating.
versus
Yeah.
thinking about the journey of
Yep.
like, okay, like what is bringing people in, and like how should this be merchandised differently than something else that feels like, so that everything feels good versus not. And oh man, there was just empty like sections, which like if you have an empty section in your store, like please stop, like just close it down. Like I can't. It's just unacceptable. All right.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. You
I
want
agree.
to,
What do you want to talk about next?
you want to move to one thing and then we'll move to quick fire? Or just want to be mindful of time?
Yeah, I want to talk about the areas that you're excited about, because
Oh,
you
sure.
had some pretty like interesting answers, and we'll go through them kind of quickly. But like you had, I love this. Like I love the way your mind works, because it's like you're not thinking retail, right? And I think that's
Yeah.
so much about like what people don't get is that like, oh, like I don't work in retail, there's nothing to learn here. But I think actually what you point out is like, no, you can learn from all these different things, and
For
like
sure.
they apply to retail, but they also apply to experience, right? So you had theme parks and you had Cosm on here, and I desperately want to talk about Cosm.
Go back to the question. What was the big picture
So the question was, what are you excited about in retail generally right now? And he had theme parks, which like, I'm like, yes, like let's talk about theme parks and experience-based retail growth was kind of your whole answer, which is like such a technical answer. I love it. But like your list was, okay, just to read off the list of things that you wrote here. You had Universal, Mattel, Camp, Meow Wolf, which I've never heard of, and Netflix House, Netflix Bites, Cosm, which I love, and Yowie, which is my absolute favorite. So let's talk about those quickly.
I mean, to me, interesting thing with Mattel and Netflix is they're basically figuring out how do we extend these franchises into experiences that then we'll sell stuff. You know, at the end of the day, like sure, it's a ride, but then you're going to have it buy a bunch of Mattel Barbie stuff or Hot Wheels things after you leave this theme park. I think I can't remember I know there's one in Arizona, like a Mattel theme park. There might be one in Texas. I've written about it. We can link to it. But, you know, the fact that and then Universal Studios is opening smaller scale parks. There's definitely one in Texas happening. And again, it's about creating experience and they're charging money to get in, but you know, they've got some real good gift shops at all these places. And they're basically just, they're energizing these franchises that they own and creating more excitement and reasons to buy for them. So that's what gets me excited there. And Netflix is obviously doing the same thing with they're opening one in Texas and then one at the King of Prussia. They're basically taking over an old department store, right? And you have all these experiences, but then you can eat there and you can buy all the fun stuff from your favorite Netflix shows.
But I think it's so interesting to think about gift shops as innovative spaces, because for a really long time it was just like, hey, like roll through the gift shop and you just be like, every parent in there is just like, how long do we have to spend in here? And it's 10 minutes, but actually it's 45 minutes of your life and you're just so unhappy. But then what I've realized is that, so like my daughter doesn't know this, but we're going to Disney, right? And and I was like, do I really want to be doing this? And then my friend, who is not a Disney girl, like this woman is like, she wants to shop at the Row. She does not want to be going to Disney. She's like, oh my gosh, you have to do the tiara experience. It's like the best thing in the world. Like you're going to make this tiara. Harriet's going to put in the jewels. You're going to make like, it's like experiential gift shopping.
Yeah.
And she says her daughter's like, she said it was like 6 months worth of like just happiness, like that they had made this thing themselves. It's like a little bit IKEA-ish, like in terms of like you get involved. And I think it's so interesting thinking about like the ability to take kind of IP, make it experiential for kids, making it experiential for the parents, make it a memorable experience. Like it has a really fundamental impact on how people feel about that whole franchise, right?
Yeah.
Like my friend would never have told me about Disney princesses. Like if I could have bet money on it. I was her college roommate. Like we've never discussed princesses. And then she spent maybe 45 minutes of wine time talking about Disney and because of this experience. So I think it's like that's really amazing. That can do
Yep.
some things for people.
Yeah, and so my eye is just on all of these like either manufacturers or filmmakers or owners of franchises and sort of what they're doing to create these experiences. And at the end of the day, it is the Disney model of like create these experiences because you're just going to sell more stuff. But it's a fun way to buy things. So why not?
Totally. And it's leaning into the experience. It's just what we were talking about with Rivian and the other examples. It's leaning in, and nobody does this better than Disney, but like Universal, the Harry Potter, wand whole like song and dance, like that's an amazing experience that people will remember.
And now they've added the freestanding stores in New York and Chicago.
Yeah. There you go. And it's like, but really first and foremost, leaning into the experience, not vice versa, leaning into the gift shop and then offering an experience. And I think that's really the lesson is lean into the experience, really get behind that. And again, Disney's is a great example of doing this and doing this right. And then all of the things will happen. And I think so many retailers, CEOs are like, oh no, we got to sell the thing. We got to make sure that's front and center, and just really believing enough in the IP, believing enough in the brand to then know that it will sell if you do the experience right.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, Camp is good at that, I would say, but I think they've also fallen off, in my opinion. Like, it started as such a great premise. What I struggle with, and this is understandable, but it's really just a terrible strategy, is that they have really leaned into like just one thing. So it's like there's one Bluey experience. There's one, like there's no more, like it's the Bluey bought them out and you just go and you get the same thing every time. Whereas before it felt like camp was like this place of like, oh, like what is going to be there this time? Like what's happening there? The event programming felt really robust. And now it just feels kind of like a gift shop to the Bluey experience,
to the larger,
the
larger licensed theme. Yeah,
it's not the same without you, Michael.
There was really good intentions. They did get I think they got an investment like by Simon Malls or something. I am starting to see smaller locations pop up all over the country, so we'll see how they can hang on. But it's possible they're just ahead of their time. It's a lot of bookstores.
I think they need to go back to their roots, maybe. Tell me what Meow Wolf is, and then we'll maybe have to move on, because Kirsten, I can tell, is getting like...
It's just this crazy artist-driven experience, and each area, each Meow Wolf has a different sort of theme. So in Denver, it's called Convergence Station, and it's like a place where all the aliens are meeting, and you literally just walk in, and you're surrounded by all these different like exhibits, and literally like different aliens are walking around, and you can open doors and try new places, and you wander for a few hours and lose yourself in the imagination and what the space is. They have one in Vegas. I can't think of what it's called. It's like a grocery store that's gone wild. But what they've started doing is they've added restaurant experiences into it. Their gift shops are all themed to the location, and so you just walk away. It's probably more adult oriented and driven, but you walk away.
They might hand out mushrooms with these experiences.
100%. There's probably a lot of people doing a little mushrooms or some, but that's fine. Like it
totally.
Yeah.
If it's in Denver, I mean, like they found they got their locations right.
100. Yeah. So I'd love to see what they're doing. They've added some smaller locations again, and there's so much happening in Texas, in Arizona. I think there must be there's with the population growth and young families in those two states. There's a lot of these entertainment destinations that are going in those areas.
Yeah, they also have space to kind of grow and
that's true. That's
bigger there, which like because like Topgolf, for example, started there and then it came everywhere else.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, it didn't start there, but it really.
But yeah.
In the US, it kind of began there. All right. The last thing we can talk about is only one of them, which is because you talked about hospitality, and like I think Yowie is a really interesting kind of duo one, and then I'll like kind of link to everything. But like I've been a Yowie fan, like absolutely love Sharon's like since I don't know, maybe like I want to say since she opened. Like Kirsten knows I've like had a Yowie t-shirt like for ages.
I love it.
I love her like perspective, and she was kind of an interesting person of like she really had a really particular vision, and then she started getting into hospitality. And I haven't gotten to stay at the Yowie Hotel, but next time I'm in Philly is
That's what
definitely.
I meet next time, which I
Yeah.
think will be in December. So I'm excited.
Ooh,
right.
I know.
love this for you.
What was that place you guys went to in New York that was kind of like a Yowie? It was a bar, and you were kind of disappointed.
Yes. This is that episode
Raise?
4. No. The
You
one
were
that
like
we went
supposed to be able to
there
like
was
buy the
upstairs,
stuff.
like
at
the furniture.
Fuck, not the counter, not the. Come on, shit.
They actually shut
We'll
down
link to
that
it.
rashont there. Yeah,
I'm
they
not
shut down the restaurant.
Yeah, that was
aspect of-
disappointing. That was not.
But
That was not what
the
it.
idea,
But
of,
in our
like,
minds, it was great.
right, because the
Before we went
idea
there.
was like you can experience the stuff,
Yeah.
and then
The
you can
way I sold it to
buy it.
people
I
was
I
was
remember
much
this
better
on the
than the
podcast.
real.
You said you sold
Yeah,
it.
it was much better. The experience, like they needed to go with that vision versus
Yeah.
like whatever the fuck they were doing.
But like I think seeing like Ralph Lauren do this now and Restoration Hardware, where they are creating these experiences where you get to vibe a little bit with the brand and the product, because there's a hospitality component. It creates a different type of emotional connection. I feel like you have with that retailer and that brand. It's just really fun to see that sort of blowing up.
For sure. And I think that's really bringing it back. Chris and I were talking about this when we were last together, like department stores doing that, Print Tom's, but it also like airs back to like, remember the restaurant at Barney's and Louis Boston had one, and like
That's right.
that vibe and that experience, it would literally be an all day thing. And obviously you're going to buy more after you've had lunch and a few glasses of wine, and then you go back out. And you've just had this amazing immersive day that's completely changing versus like just going in for an hour or so.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I think, just we didn't get to talk too much about AI, but to me, like this is the perfect counterweight to that, right? Like if you're starting to kind of think about like everybody's having their sort of, I wrote the other day, like agents are taking away your agency, right? Like
Sure.
we're going to get to the point where like, you're not going to really be thinking about like, some of the purchases that you have and whether or not you like that in terms of the subscription model. I really do wonder if that's going to work out for people, but it will be interesting, and I think people really will want more and more reasons to love and fall in love with the brand because they don't have any other interaction. Like they're not going to your website. They're shopping basically through a portal that you never see the brand experience. And so when you're trying to decide like, hey, do I want this couch or that couch? If you've gone to Restoration Hardware and you've had a few drinks and you've sat on that couch and you're thinking to yourself like, you know what, actually, like that couch, like that brand, that felt really right. Like, I think that's the brand for me. And I think that will be a big kind of piece of this as we move forward, is like the sort of antidote to the...
Yeah. I mean, a really good example, my brother and sister-in-law remodeled their home. They went to Restoration Hardware to get some furniture. And they're like, "Oh, it's your birthday. Why don't you go have free lunch on us? Go upstairs and we'll finish this transaction up." And they're like, "Oh, we're getting a free lunch." And I was like, "Are you getting a free lunch?" I mean, yeah, but you're also buying a lot of furniture from them. But it was like they loved the experience.
But they felt great about that.
Oh, 100%. I mean, the stuff is gorgeous too. But so it's just it's fun to see like that is not like that's a furniture shopping experience again versus kind of what it had been for a little bit, where you were like buying stuff online, you didn't know what you're going to get, if it was going to be comfortable or not,
Yeah, and that's a word of mouth experience. Yeah, like they probably told like 400 people about that experience of getting free lunch, and they have about their couch.
They absolutely,
and it's like it's like Kirsten's customer service thing from Bombas. Like, I mean, like you mentioned customer service, she's like, well, Bombas, like it's like.
It's true.
It's like I've heard this story like 400 times.
Did you get some free socks?
Yes.
Or exchange?
Yeah.
Of socks?
We'll have to talk about this another day.
Yeah. All right, we'll talk about it another day. We'll link to it.
It's just that the stories that people tell from those types of experiences, and they
100%.
can happen through a digital situation because that's Kirsten's Bombas thing. But those types of journeys that you were talking about, like to me, it's like go look at all the things that people are doing and look at why they're doing them, because they're not doing it because they want you to hang out and like they want to have a restaurant. They're doing it because they want you to tell that story. And when you tell that story, then the next person who goes along is thinking to themselves like, yeah, that sounds like a good, like maybe we'll try that place, right? And those are what really like change people's minds about brands.
Agreed.
Right. But that's leaning into the brand and leaning into the experience versus just the sale. Like that's having the long-term brand view. And
it's
I'm
a very
100% here for
different
that.
view.
Yes.
All right. Let's do quick fire super quick.
Ready, Michael?
Okay, let's do it.
All right. 3 things every retail brand should do.
Okay, I wrote, get out there, experience the journey from beginning to end, and do something uncomfortable. Try something new.
Yes.
Kirsten's
big
love
into that,
language.
for sure. What's your biggest learning? What would you do differently?
In my wise age, I've learned I need to not ask for permission and just sometimes do things.
Yes. Forgiveness versus permission.
Great.
Again.
Yeah,
here for
especially in the
He's
retail
like,
space.
Yeah.
My
Your
people.
Kirsten's like, yeah, you're really.
Everyone's
What's
got an
one
opinion
brand?
and- yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. What's one brand you think more people should be paying attention to?
We talked about it, Alter State.
Yeah. All right.
What's a brand you'd love to see completely get overhauled?
Well, one dear to my heart is Target. But I was there for 16 years and they had something and they need to just jump back in and try it.
They had a
Try
rough
it.
day today, I hear.
They did,
So
unfortunately.
If the
so
Target people are out there, we're thinking
Yeah.
of you guys. I hope
Yes.
it.
if there's anything
it
you
all
need, you
ends
want to
well.
chat,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
You're very talented folks and you've got
Yes.
this.
Reach out to any of us.
Yes.
We're here
Please,
for
please.
Yes.
And then, of course, we got that damn Hudson News in the airport. I want to
Such an
just rip
opportunity.
it out.
you. Amen.
I want to reinvent the airport gift shop, and I want to reinvent this one. Like, so
Yeah.
desperate.
Yeah.
So Hudson
I'm
News,
just shocked that
team us all up, and like we can come
Yes.
in and like
We're here.
really
We can do
like
this.
shake it up.
100%. 100%.
Make it happen. One word that sums up your approach.
I'm curious.
Gosh, it's like you literally wrote Kirsten's list. I was like, ding, 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 like, you know.
Michael, I adore you.
Oh, this is so
Thank
much fun.
you.
I adore both of you as well. I learned so much listening to you every week and your newsletters, and it's just a blast.
Oh, well, we are so
Thank you.
lucky to
We
have
feel the
you.
same.
And yeah, follow Michael on LinkedIn.
Yes.
I have all of his information in the newsletter, and I'm not gonna take your homework for granted. So I'm gonna throw kind of all the extra questions that I threw at you and like clean them up a little bit and make sure it makes sense. If you want to know more about how Michael thinks, go to the Substack and
Yes.
check out all of those. And a lot of these links are also to his great LinkedIn post where he goes really deep into each one. So it's a real rabbit hole, which, I love.
Yes. And you should definitely be following Michael. And if you like this podcast, share it with somebody. Let us know your thoughts. Give us a comment. Give the algorithm some love.
Yeah.
And stay curious.
Agreed. Share it. It's the best.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Yeah. Appreciate you both. Have a great
Bye.
rest of your day.
That was it for this episode of Good Thinking. Don't forget to tune in next week.
If you found this valuable, subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast app.
And don't forget to read on Substack for even more insights.
And if you really liked it, drop us a heart. We'd love to hear from you.
Ciao. Until next time.